That's funny. What's going on, guys? Welcome in. Welcome in. Sids, what's going on? Tesla downside reversal. I mean, you have that. Tesla literally signifies the volatility right there. I mean, you're literally playing with fire, trying to mess with Tesla, especially during times of volatility. And I think that's probably why you didn't hear me saying too much about Tesla or even Avery today. I think we kind of fell back on that one. I know that Avery was maybe looking at it a little bit early on. We had the nice push early on. But when you get into volatility events like today with FOMC, you definitely want to fall back on that, especially that ticker specifically. That's what I would pretty much kind of emphasize. That's actually one of the beauty about today's. I mean, considering that comment you said you got lucky with both sides, that's the beauty of days like today where we usually have FOMC and Powell talks, is that you usually get that wrong reaction, which actually also works in your favor. But the fact is that whether you buy a call or a put before the event, you basically need to look at your position, go in the green, and take your profits literally right away. That's literally what you have to do because you're going to get that pretty much that explosive move in either direction for the initial reaction, and then you're going to literally flip script. So that's basically what ended up happening. We got the drop off. You would have needed to take your puts off the table right away once they went green, and you just saw the script pretty much just flip right back to the north. So, I mean, again, though, when you get into volatility events like today, you definitely want to pretty much avoid volatility tickers that are pretty much related to volatility and you already move volatile enough. So, a volatility event plus a volatile ticker just does not add up, is what I would say about that. All right. But today was pretty much definitely one of those crazy kind of days. I know that some people actually were pretty much just stuck in their positions, just watching the market rip in other directions. Some of us pretty much sold our puts at at pretty much at the top. Some of us sold our calls at the bottom when we dropped, and that's usually what ends up happening on the days like today. You pretty much will either make bank and know that you need to take your profits right away, in which you had more than one opportunity, or you practically just get raped. That's basically how today pretty much went. So, but I think today's pretty much what we heard from FOMC off of Powell was that we got what the market pretty much wanted. We got the 25 basis points that we wanted right now. That's what the market pretty much wanted to hear. We were pretty much more in the terms of we wanted to hear Powell and what he was going to sound, whether he was going to sound dovish or hawkish going for the rest of the year. And I think he pretty much laid out a pretty much of a good plan in which we obviously see that the market's not spooked by anything right now. And that's exactly what we really wanted to see, more so or less, is that we wanted to see Powell pretty much just calm the markets, give us the 25 basis points that he pretty much laid out previously, and then just pretty much work around that, but easing it into the market as we get multiple rate hikes through the year. So I think he did a phenomenal job in terms of that. Obviously, once we had the first drop off, which pretty much spooked the market for the most part, we saw that pretty much that dip just got bought up and we literally just went vertical into the close here. So phenomenal day. I think today also set us up for more so a short term better projection of what we're looking at. And as I pretty much just get into my SPY chart right now, in which we pretty much have a defined downtrend that we pretty much had going into today. If I put it, drop it in the yellow here, you see the downtrend resistance that we're sitting at with that yellow line. We basically gapped over our resistance point today. So that first, pretty much that first 4 hour candle, the first half of today, we see that we had that gap up. We pretty much just faded right into FOMC, and obviously you see that it turned into a bearish candle. Then we pretty much had the retest off of that second half of the day here with FOMC. We had the nice retest off of that downtrend break from that 4 hour candle, and we literally just pushed north. And what I'm pretty much identifying here kind of coincides also with what Avery's looking at in terms of his 440 projection that he was literally screaming since early this morning. So I hope if anyone heard that earlier this morning, you pretty much held and you knew what was going on. Obviously, to see about a 3 to 4 point drop off, you would have wanted to take your profits, but knowing that you probably would have had to trust his instincts, what he was seeing more so of that 440 to know that you needed to buy the dip once SPY got down to that 424 mark. But other than that, I'm pretty much aligned with that 440 level. I think we're pretty much playing out towards a leading diagonal type of action here. And that's why you see I do have the two white lines right now. Let me just fade out the downtrend resistance. Pretty much what would end up happening in this pretty much works in which we're going to end up smacking our head into that resistance of this leading diagonal. That'll put us right into that 440. We'll get some chop. We'll get a pullback. I think we can retrace back down towards 431, 432, in which will come down to our support. And we'll get what would be our last rip, in which that will be in towards next week. Mid, I want to say it's about the 24th would be I think the 24th puts us right around, yeah, towards the end of next week. That would be about just about Thursday. So depending how quickly they run it up, I think we set up to be pretty much just neutral to bullish here going into next week to the end of the week, and we'll get a beautiful push in which I have pretty much my supply zone overall here on off of the 4 hour. Is I'm sitting on pretty much retesting what we acted as prior support or resistance. We actually see that we broke down on this current level, this 446 mark, back from January 20th. We also broke back out off of the little reversal action. We broke back out right until the end of January, the 31st. We acted as support off of this 446 level between pretty much the first week of February. And then we broke down convincingly here off of this February 16th mark. So I'm looking to retest that 446 mark ultimately. That's the level in which I'm really watching going in towards next week. So once I do get that pullback, that 431, 432 mark, that's really more so where I'm looking to get in towards those 446 calls for next week. So that's ideally what would be my strategy right now. Obviously, today was just a face ripper day. It's either you made it or you didn't. And I know a lot of you did not want to end up chasing towards the close there. So I couldn't blame you if you didn't want to chase. But this is usually what I think Avery will probably much coincide and say is that this is usually what a wave three looks like. And that's basically what we ended up getting today was that wave three type of price action, which is literally just parabolic. And that's basically what it was. So if we're going off of that, you would pretty much just see your sideways action by your wave four, more so or less, going into tomorrow to Friday, and then we just get that splurge in which we just rip off, I think, towards that 446 mark. That's what I'm pretty much anticipating here. Once we get to that 446 level, could be a little bit of a chop, could be pretty much a hard reversal. Maybe some kind of news catalyst just sends us right back down. But I think this is setting up for me to be a dip buy here, whether it be tomorrow or it's on Friday. I want to get in under at least 433 and pretty much ride the wave right up towards 446. All right. So pretty much 431 to 433 would be my potential buy zone. All depends how much we pretty much rip going into tomorrow. Will pretty much give me a better idea of how much we're gonna end up pulling back and how fast we get there. So, but ideally, 432 would be that range in which I pretty much want to get in. 432, 433 is the ideal spot. I want to pretty much get in towards 446 calls going into next week. Maybe I go into Wednesday or if I go into next week Friday calls on 446. So that's what ideally what I'm looking with for SPY. Hopefully that kind of gives you a better picture. I just think with also with the surrounding news, Russia and Ukraine news have pretty much they're on the sideline right now. We see there's been peace talks that have been going on relatively. So that's on the sideline pretty much. We also have uh, keep an eye on the 10-year bond yield. I know that that's pretty much also climbed. If I pretty much look at that real quickly, that might be something that pretty much sparks us maybe tomorrow or so. We'll probably hear a headline or so off of that. But if I look off of the daily here and I pretty much touched basis on this yesterday, is that we pretty much smacked our head right into that resistance point as well. As you see, maybe it's like little leading diagonal action as well here. We smacked our head into resistance, so keep an eye on that. Maybe we hear a headline or so about that going into tomorrow. That might be something that you want to keep an eye on. Other than that, I think Powell with the rate hikes pretty much just set us up for a short-term rally here, bigger picture. All right. So that's what I pretty much wanted to mention. Obviously, we saw the names that pretty much did face trips. If I pretty much just look at some of those, you pretty much see the Amazon. We broke out convincingly here. Just a beautiful breakout. I think I was targeting on this one right around 31.33 is where I was potentially looking at. I think 3100 is literally gonna likely just smack tomorrow morning. It'll likely just be a nasty gap up, as we already saw that SPY was already pushing more than $1 after hours, and Amazon's already up $8 after hours. So I expect this one to push that 3100 mark, but 3133 was that ideal cushion spot that I wanted to look at, and then we can spread pretty much stretch towards 3207 is the next spot I was watching here off of the daily. So bigger picture, 3207 would be where I would ideally want to look forward towards next week per se, and don't be surprised if that ends up on the newsletter. All right, but that's another one. I know that a lot of eyes were on pretty much also on Tesla here. If I look at this one, and I can pretty much delete this line. I don't know why I had that there. But we are still pretty much on a defined downtrend resistance here on Tesla off of the daily more so. So we do need to end up breaking over this 848 mark. Once we break that 848, which will likely happen tomorrow morning, then that's when we're going to start to stretch and we'll see a bigger picture here. 886 is definitely one of the bigger resistance points. Above the 886, then we'll stretch this one out towards that 903, 904 mark on the daily. So 886, and then I want to say 904 would be that my next stretch. Those are my two immediate targets. And then for next week, we'll pretty much reevaluate that. But those are levels I would ideally look for. I think we'll smack our head on that 903. Excuse me. We'll smack our head on 903, and then we'll see a retest on the downtrend break, basically, in which it will pretty much pull us right back towards the levels which we're pretty much sitting at right now of that on the close there of that 838, 839. All right. So that's what I would pretty much look at for Tesla. Someone also mentioned Apple. Let me take a peep at Apple real quick. I'll delete whatever I had here. I believe Apple's actually still sitting in a downtrend resistance as well. I don't know why I didn't have that. Pretty much sitting here. Probably should have had that. But you're pretty much still sitting in a downtrend resistance off of Apple. Let's fix that trend line. I think it's sitting right about here. Yep, perfect. So this is pretty much what you're looking at for your downtrend resistance here off of Apple. You're gonna literally smack your head basically right here up towards this 160.75 mark is what you're looking at on towards Apple. So once we end up getting over that 160.80 level, then we'll likely start to see this one creep up. Next resistance we're sitting at is 163, above the 163 mark, and then we're pretty much looking at towards 164.50 is the next mark in which I'm looking at before we end up getting what's likely going to be a retest of the downtrend break, and which will retest basically towards this 159, 158 mark, and wait before continuation to the upside. So that's what I would pretty much look at towards Apple. But a lot of these names are pretty much either just sitting above their downtrend break or they're ready to just pretty much gap over it, in which it's a likely scenario that we'll see Apple pretty much gap up right over this downtrend break. All right. As I pretty much go through some of the tickets here that you guys are mentioning, DUOL. I've never even heard that ticker. No idea what this one is. I have not looked at this ticker at all. Let's take a peek though. It's up $10. God damn. Did they have earnings or something? I'm assuming they did, if that was the case. This is one that's pretty much sitting right under its downtrend resistance here. If I pretty much just draw a downtrend resistance, so you pretty much get a bigger picture here of what you're looking at. This is your downtrend resistance. So you're looking for this one to pretty much get a push. I want to say a convincing push. We should be able to get over this 80-10 mark is what I'm looking at. Over 80-10 is where you're going to end up breaking this downtrend resistance. If you're looking for your resistance points off of that downtrend break, you're pretty much looking at 82.40. Above the 82.40 mark, then you're pretty much going to smack your head right around this resistance point right here, is which is 86, which you can stretch towards. So 86 will be where I see you stretching. You do have a minor resistance here as well, right around 84, 85.46 is what I'm looking at. That's also a minor resistance, but I think this will also stretch towards 86 will be my ideal target here once we get the downtrend break on DUOL. That's what I'll be looking at. And so, okay, that makes sense. I was about to say up $10 for only a $78 stock, it had to be earnings. Makes sense now. But yeah, I think this is a beautiful one here. Once you get this break, you should get that convincing break over that $80 mark. I want to say to be safe. Over $80, then I would stretch this out towards 86, and that's how I would play it. Now, 86, granted the fact that I don't think it's gonna hit this week. So if you were really trying to get into this one, and obviously I'm saying a short-term rallies in place for the broader market, I would look for 86 calls going out towards next week to give yourself some better time. All right. So I do like that one. That's definitely a beautiful one. Actually, I'm gonna add it to my watch list because I do not have that one. I'll probably take a look at it more so in more detail at a later time. All right. Let's see. The other one was Costco. I have not looked at Costco in a while, actually. I know it was more so acting as a value play, more so like how we saw it with Walmart, more so. So I do like the fact that it was actually holding on. You did have a little bit of what I would say is a little bit of a double bottom type action. As we see, it's pretty much continuing to just accelerate to the upside here. Your next pretty much critical resistance point that you really need to get over, we pretty much wicked over it, but we weren't able to hold, is getting over this 548.15 mark. That's the level that you really need to reclaim. 548.15, I said, was that mark that I was watching? That's yeah. 548.15 is that mark that you really need to get over. If you can get over that 548.15, then I would take a swing on this one, and it'll likely end up even being more so of a day trade because I would see this one pretty much just rip. But other than that, next key resistance point that you're looking at is 552.40. Above the 552.40, then we're going to see the stretch out towards 556.44 will be your next resistance. So I do like Costco a lot. I think this one's going to be a beautiful uptrend that we'll see along with the market. It didn't necessarily push today, but I think we'll see some better movement out of this one in the coming days here as the market continues to push. So I would stay with this name, continue to be with it. When do they actually have earnings? Okay, so not until August. So you have quite a while, but that would seem like they have earnings. Let me actually just double check something real quick. Let me see. Let me just peep at something real quick off of Costco here. Let's see. Okay, so they already had earnings. All right, I just wanted to double check that. I was about to say, because if the earnings are in August, it had to be right about this corner that we end up having. So earnings are out of the way, so that's definitely a good positive that is still holding uptrend. So I do like this one. 556 would be the ultimate target, which I would pretty much stretch this out towards, and I would be looking at calls towards next week. All right. So that would be a beautiful one. The other one you mentioned was CAR. What is this vertical nonsense? What am I looking at? Come on, deal. What is this? This is pretty much that previous short squeeze play, and I have not looked at this thing also in a while since this last squeeze that we had back from November 2nd. I have not looked at Avis since then, but up 21.5%. That is insanely crazy. Why is this thing still squeezing like this? Shares buyback today. All right, that pretty much explains why this thing is up like that. I'm like, why in the hell is this like this? There's no way this thing should be up that much. All right, so if I'm looking in terms of support here, and this is why I say looking at support, is that you want to see this fall back towards that 274 mark. All right, and this is why I'm pretty much looking at this as if I was particularly going to be day trading tomorrow, not necessarily trying to swing a volatile ticker like this. All right, that would be pretty much my emphasis on that. But you would look for a pullback here tomorrow morning. Look for this to pull back towards 274. As I see, that's pretty much been a confluence in which it was prior consolidation here, and it also acted as prior resistance, where you had this distribution action from the beginning in December. All right. So 274 would be where you want to get your ideal buy-in spot. You want to see it hold there. Otherwise, if we stretch this, we're pretty much looking for 301 here. That would be your ideal spot, your little cushion spot. 301 is your target. Above that 301 mark, then you're going to stretch this out towards 318. So 301, 318, and your buying spot is 274. Those are pretty much your three key levels that you're watching on this one. But up $50, 21.5%, that is quite a bit for me to try and chase this at this price point it's sitting at. But if you're pretty much feeling frisky, and I know that tomorrow's premiums are going to be relatively cheaper, I mean, I don't mind it if you're trying. Just make sure that you kind of treat it as a lotto. So don't try to go crazy, especially on a squeeze ticker like this. All right. That's pretty much would be my caution about that. But nice catch on that. That is a hell of a squeeze though. Let's see. Someone mentioned one other ticker. Let me take a peek at this one. JD. I gotta say, I was so tempted to buy into Chinese stocks. I even wrote about it, and this is one of those weeks. I don't know if any of you heard me on live. This is one of those weeks where I wrote about Alibaba on the newsletter. I literally kid you not, it literally broke all my resistance levels and support levels. Because if we remember the beginning of the week, it gapped down about seven. I think it was down about $9 come Monday. And then on top of that, it literally just gapped up what it was $15 this morning. So insanely crazy to see Chinese stocks going like this. I just wish I had ended up trying to pretty much convince myself to get into Baba yesterday. But oh well, too little too late. On to the next one. That's pretty much how I treat it. But looking at JD here, pretty much where we're gonna pretty much smack our head into resistance. It's definitely a hell of a V-shaped recovery that we're looking at. But if I'm looking at some levels in which pretty much stand out towards me, is that I would want to see us break over the 66 mark here. We need to break over that 66 mark, in which that pretty much acted as, if I draw a line here, that was prior support before we ended up breaking down. So this little phase right here in which you would see me just pretty much highlight, this basically acted as distribution. This entire little chop, this little range that we had, or you want to call it consolidation, that was basically all distribution before we had that massive downtrend that we just sank, right? So what I would want to do is I want to see us retest that 66 mark that acted as support through that entire distribution, and we need to get over that 66 mark. Once we get over that 60, and that's exactly 6608 is a spot that I'm watching. But above that, then we're pretty much just targeting here a few levels in which I'm looking at. We'll be stretching this out towards that 69.13 level. You're pretty much gonna smack your head at the 40-day moving average, right around the $69 mark, which also pretty much acts as an intermediate support that we've had within that range. Also, pretty much if you look about maybe I want to say close enough to halfway of this little consolidation that we had there. 69 acted as an intermediate support in which we attempted to bounce off of multiple times within that range. So we'll smack our head on that 40-day moving average at 69, and above that, then we're particularly looking at stretching out pretty convincingly towards that 76.58 mark, which would be your 1 month high. So that's definitely a beautiful one here. If the Chinese names can hold up and we can continue to rally off of this, I would just hate to see that we end up puking out this entire move, and more so off of a stupid headline that comes back out to just eat up this entire price action. So, but other than that, I think today's price action was just beautiful on it. We should see the stretch over that 66 mark, and once we break 66, I think that's the more comfortable spot I would look to go long on JD. All right. But other than that, can we trust Chinese names? Off of the headline that we got, more so with China pretty much saying that they're gonna end up backing their system, I would say yes, because that was very convincing off of this price action, off of what they said. Otherwise, it would likely have been a sell the news type of price action that we would have got. And this did not look anything like a sell the news price action that we got today out of all the Chinese name across the boards. Look at JD, look at Baidu, look at Baba. They all literally just continue to accelerate through the entire day. So I do think that you can pretty much buy into these names. Do I like to buy into a lot of these names that pretty much were already up $15, $20 already? No, because that's usually not my style to pretty much chase a lot of these names. But given the fact that, again, they pretty much accelerated through the entire day and it was not a sell the news type of headline that we got from China, I think you are pretty much safe to go ahead and get in a short term position for China. All right. Do I want it? I do want to lean towards saying leaps. I'm really wanting to say that, but it is China. So that's why I pretty much preference that statement by saying a short term swing, right? Look to pretty much get in, take your profits, and be back out. All right, that's how I would treat it more so. It's just yeah, it is hard to try to trust China, and they haven't given us much emphasis to really say, you know what, I trust you. No, there hasn't been anything about that. So that's pretty much what I would say about that. But I do think that you can get into a short term position, is what I would say. All right. They announced the 1 billion share. All right, so that pretty much explains why they have a $45 push after hours. But again, play it level by level. I think so. I would just be cautious about it. I think I said that 341 spot or 241 was that ideal spot. Just keep those levels in mind that I mentioned, and just play it about like that. I would be cautious about trying to swing that. That's the only thing I would be saying. All right. Other than that, though, I think that was pretty much. Hopefully, that kind of wrapped it up. Looking at some of the big names that are out there, the Amazon, the Teslas, the Apples. Hopefully, that ended up helping you guys. Again, I hope no one got slaughtered off of today's price action. But one key takeaway, and hopefully those of you that have not learned your lesson to date, right, is that when you try to play into these volatility events, like especially FOMC for that matter, basically is what I'm saying, is that if you're whether it's calls or it's puts, once you get yourself into profits, be ready to exit. Do not pretty much trying to hold out saying it's gonna go down more or it's gonna go up more, because that's basically what you saw is that we literally whipsaw both sides of the playing field. We if you were in puts, you needed to exit pretty much once you saw yourself going to the green, and that was already about a three to 4 point move on SPY that you got literally instantly. You wanted to pretty much close out that position and just stay sidelined. If you were in calls, then you literally got you pretty much suffered off of the news, but you definitely would have wanted to hold. And hopefully you would have pretty much been encouraged by what Avery was saying with SPY going towards 440. But literally whipsaw type of action is what I would say. But also is that once you see your position go green, take your profits. Otherwise, obey by a stop loss. That's pretty much the best headline, the best news that I can pretty much give you in terms of what I would say is advice. All right, after today's price action. So hopefully you guys pretty much banked though. I would hope that. I know that Sig was doing his best to pretty much guide you guys on live. I was working on some things as well. So not too much that I was really looking at or looking to call out. I didn't trade as much today. I think I mentioned that before live. I pretty much commented in chat. I was like, today's likely a day where I pretty much stay sidelined. I literally just ran into Tesla puts before the FOMC event. Obviously, Tesla's pretty much volatile, but I knew what I was risking. I got into puts right before that statement came out, and we nosedive. Once I saw me go green, I literally just got out. And when I saw that face rip, I was like, wow, all right. Powell pretty much said exactly what we wanted to hear. So, am I salty about the fact that I could have played the upside and I would have got made more money? Yeah, I could be salty about it, but I'm green, so why the hell would I care, right? It's pretty much just about your execution, knowing that you made the right execution. That's exactly what this game is pretty much all about. So don't be salty. Don't try to FOMO. So hopefully no one tried to FOMO into anything, but that's exactly hopefully that kind of insight pretty much gives you a better gauge of what you should be doing and how you should be thinking. All right. I am cash tonight more so. I think I only have about two SPY calls that I'm just sitting on for Friday expiration. Nothing crazy. I pretty much want to get my sleep. I don't really want to have to worry and just working on some back end stuff, projects, whatnot. But other than that, hopefully you guys had a pretty good day. I'll see you guys on live tomorrow morning. But that kind of wraps up our session today, guys. But again, see you guys in the morning. Hope you guys have a great afternoon. But I'm out. Later, guys.